Welcome back to another episode of the Barron Report, where we continue our coverage around the restaurant and hospitality industry. But the biggest topic that we're moving forward with here on the show now, as you guys know, the coronavirus pandemic, as it has impacted the industry, is our next step is the recovery. And the recovery is part of what I think is going to be the biggest story ever told in the food industry ever. So with me today, I've got one of the biggest players, and that's Randy Garutti, the CEO of Shake Shack. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. It's really good to be here. And I just want to start by saying thanks to you and your team for the coverage and the way y'all have been, telling the stories from every angle of our industry. It's really helpful. And I just want to say thanks. So appreciate the opportunity to tell our story.
Absolutely. The least thing we could do, Randy. Let's get into it. So Shake Shack, of course, some big news coming out of your group, and that is kind of a shift in terms of how you guys are operating. One of the biggest topics, and I wanted to talk to you about today, was this whole move to meal kits. Of all things, we've seen to-go, takeout, ghost kitchens. We've seen a lot of movement. Haven't seen a lot of meal kit approaches. What was your thought process in kind of building the strategy around meal kits for Shake Shack?
Well, there's just been, hundreds of pivots and heroic things that our teams have been doing to stay open. We basically have one goal right now, and that's to provide jobs for our team, keep everybody employed as long and as best as we can, and take care of our communities. And, it's crazy. You go back and you think about the birth of Shake Shack 16 years ago, born as a community gathering place. Everything about Shake Shack undid what fast food had kind of ruined over the years, and we brought people together. And here we are saying to the world that's the exact thing we can't do. But in the midst of that, we've got to pivot. And we've done it in so many different ways. Specific to the one fun example we're talking about, we worked with a great company called Goldbelly and another smaller company called Creamco on the West Coast. And we've effectively been able to say, hey, you're stuck at home. You got the family with you. You got to feed people, but you really kind of want that food you love. And we put together these Shack kits, and you can order on Goldbelly, 8 ShackBurgers, and it rolls into your house ready to go with directions from us. You can link to a video from Mark, our culinary director, and you can cook ShackBurgers at home. Everything you need is in the box. And it's just been one small little morale boost for our team and a ton of fun for the people who get them. Like, Instagram's been fired up with people who are showing you cooking their Shack kits at home. It's been really cool.
So how is this working? As I see here, it's a $49 meal kit. You get 8 burgers. Everything's in the box. So I mean, literally buns, the special sauce, all those things are in the box, ready to go.
Yeah, the only thing we haven't worked out is the lettuce and tomato. So we're hoping you have a little bit of that in the fridge. But our fresh, hormone antibiotic-free, ground fresh by Pat LaFrieda. And Pat's doing what he normally does for our Shacks, cooking prepping those burgers for us with our recipe. And then you ordered up on Goldberry, $49. You got to add shipping, but $49 is roughly what it costs to get 8 ShackBurgers anyway. And you just got to pay for the shipping, and it arrives to you. The ShackSauce is ready to go. You cook it up. I did one last week with my kids, and we just had a ton of fun. It like brought back a little bit of normalcy to your life.
Yeah.
And brands like ours that people really have an emotional connection to,
exactly.
It matters in these times,
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. There is that very unique connection of being able to kind of bring in that whole experience, and now you're just doing it in your kitchen and at your home. Well, is this product available across the country or in the major markets where Shacks are located?
It's everywhere. It's really cool. You go to Goldbelly, and they have so many great, small producers of great products from around the country. They've obviously seen a great uptick, I expect, in their business right now with all of us sitting home and wanting great food, tired of cooking ourselves a little bit. On the West Coast, we also teamed up with a company called Creamco. This is a great regenerative farm that we work with on the West Coast anyway. And in the Bay Area, we teamed up with Uber Eats, and you can even go on our delivery channels, on Uber Eats and on our own app, and pick up at a Shack in San Francisco area the same kit. So Goldbelly will take it to you nationwide. If you want it quick tonight, you can get it if you're in the Bay Area. And we may look to do some more fun things with this. It's a small part of what we're doing right now. in a big sea of challenge. But it's just kind of it's an uplift, and it's a fun way to bring Shack to you right now.
Yeah, I like it. So with this approach, obviously there's going to be some success and learnings that you guys are going to get from this. What kind of movements do you feel are helping direct? Obviously, we don't know the real result of what's going to happen on the other side of this thing in terms of consumer confidence, people coming back into restaurants at any great numbers. My question is, do you feel like Shake Shack is going to be looking at repositioning or looking at maybe spending a little bit? Because we've talked to a lot of operators that have said, listen, we might be at 50% takeout and delivery in the future, which we had never done before. What are your thoughts on a Shack being kind of repositioned like that?
Let's start with the end game. I believe that we will see normalcy again in this world. Will it be a forever changed world? Yeah, certainly for some period of time. However, people are going to crave being with friends, family, coworkers, going to the office.
Right.
I don't believe over the long term that we will be forever changed in everything that we do. So in the long term, when people want to gather, you can bet they're going to want to gather at Shake Shack, and we're going to continue to build the community gathering places that we've always built. In the near term, you look at what we've done now. We've pivoted. We've never had a drive-through, never. Okay, we have almost 200 Shacks in this country and another 100 or so around the world in 15 other countries. Each of them has their own story in this. Nearly every Shake Shack is dining room closed and has created some type of drive-through. Whether it's a pickup station, whether it's curbside to go, whether we literally meet you in the parking lot and our team members have your bag ready for you when you pre-order on our app. So that's how we're getting through the moment. And I believe a lot of that will continue to transform. I think when we start to re-enter slowly in this country or in any state that begins a slow re-entry, so much of what we're talking about today, it will be in a way that gently gets us there. So I think people are going to want to pre-order, and that's why we're doubling down our investments on our digital channels. They're going to want delivery, and they're going to still want to go out. When they go out, they're going to want to be spaced out for a little while. You're not going to want to be on top of people. You're going to want convenience of the highest level, but you're still going to want an experience. And humans have a need to gather. I just refuse to believe that we will somehow get rid of that need, even in the short term. We need to gather. And when we do that, we're going to want more tools to do it. And that is, for us, all the digital infrastructure that we're continuing to build that, thank God, we had built over the last couple of years. It's keeping us in business.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that were not prepared for this on the digital forefront, and it's definitely making a difference in kind of how they're moving forward. And of course, many of them are scrambling right now to try to position. So, okay, so let's kind of paint a picture here then. 6 months down the road, 8 months, 12 months, whatever that number is that's going to get us back to some degree of normalcy, the elements that we're going to see in the restaurant itself. So the footprint, you and I have spent time in your Shacks there in Midtown Manhattan. Listen, those tables are on top of each other, but it's fun. In the old days, I felt like it was fun. Now I'm a little concerned with that. What are some strategies that you think will be implemented in kind of the interior design structure of how Shake Shack's done?
Yeah, I think in the long term, we'll get back to those moments where we all feel okay with that. In the whatever period is, none of us knows, whether it's 3 months or 12 months or more. I think you'll see less tables. I think what we'll be working towards is more space, right? Especially for Shake Shack, that's a busy place. We'll want people to have a space to spread out a little bit. We're all learning how to do that. No one ever planned that before. Now we all are creating space. And I think you'll want more division of how you order and pick up your food. So by that, I mean, it's funny, we had just renovated our Upper West Side Shake Shack, one of the busiest, the second one ever, one of the busiest we've ever had. Before this all happened, we renovated. You know what we did? We created a back door for the delivery drivers because that busyness had caused so much challenge before this. So you think about that as delivery continues to increase. Now we've taken a huge percentage of our people and we put them in a whole other area so that we can separate that demand into another space. And I think what you'll see for us certainly is we'll keep dividing up space. I think there'll be more space for the people who enter the Shack as we have less people there. There'll be more space for the people who've pre-ordered, so it's really easy to grab it and go. And there'll be more space for delivery orders to come pick up and go. So I think the smart design and division that still allows, by the way, for hospitality. Like we are on your side. We're a company based on hospitality. We may not hug you like we used to in the near term, but we're sure going to be there on your side to make sure, hey, Paul's here. He's got his order of a double shack burger with bacon. Here you go, Paul. Rock and roll, head out to the park, and we'll see you soon. And I think we'll be doing that better than ever coming out of this.
Yeah, very cool. On the delivery side, so we've seen two different trends that have kind of occurred over just the past 30 days. One, we saw an initial bump in delivery surge. Then we saw kind of a number that really kind of normalized and really started dropping in terms of total deliveries coming out from restaurants. Kind of your thoughts on where the delivery landscape is going to land on the other side of this, because this has been a big situation for the industry. Third-party partners, the percentage that many of them take, the whole issue of putting another body in between you and your food. What are your thoughts on how delivery begins to transform in the coming months and hopefully years?
Oh, I think we're a big example of this. In the last year, we had chosen to do an exclusive deal with Grubhub and begin to march towards them being our exclusive partner. During this time, we've all had really good conversations, both with them and everyone else. I think our belief is that it's important to have multi-partners. I think every region, every Shake Shack, every restaurant has its own strengths. And what we've done now is we've added all those other partners back. It's a great relationship we have with companies like DoorDash, Caviar, Uber Eats, Postmates. We want to make sure that we can get the ultimate flexibility for our guests on any of those channels, whichever one they prefer. And I think that's what you'll see more and more. Look, I think everybody has to figure out their own opportunity in long-term sustainable economics with delivery. The delivery partners need to figure it out. Restaurants like ours need to pay a fair price that we feel good about. That doesn't crush the economics of any single restaurant, and consumers need to pay a portion of it as well. And I think the evening out of that is what we'll see. We'll get to a long-term sustainable economic model. I hope that all three legs of that stool are taken care of in the process, and each party is paying a fair price, so that delivery can work really well in the long term. So I think it'll be here to stay. Convenience will be here to stay. And we're all going to want to make sure that we can have those channels work for us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a factor, as you've mentioned, if you can get the companies along with the consumers to kind of help split the bill, so to speak. It'll make a difference, because that's the biggest challenge right now, as you know, in really making this work. Let's talk about moving. Fast casual has been a high flyer for so many years. And in most cases, most of the fast casual operators that I've talked with, they're weathering to a certain extent, but then there are those fast casual operators that are high touch hospitality that have been almost decimated, like casual dining and fine dining. The idea of ghost kitchens, and this is one that has been bounced around for a few years now. Now we're talking reality, is that if we are looking at expanding in terms of putting in new restaurants in the future, the restaurant blueprints of the future are going to be different. Do you feel like ghost kitchens could be kind of maybe an interim step before we get back to kind of where we were? Because it's going to take some time, obviously, for the industry to get back its legs. What are your thoughts on ghost kitchens?
Well, I think effectively this entire country is operating as a ghost kitchen.
A ghost kitchen.
Right? We've gone from, there's a few of them out there, is this an interesting business model, to that's all we are. I think ghost kitchens in the future will continue to be an evolution of what they were, which to me is, look, if you've got a strong brand and you're established and you do have a place where people can go to experience the brand, ghost kitchens can be a potentially efficient part of your future. We don't have any officially, and we hadn't planned any. I think if you don't have a strong brand, it's harder to get that going. If you are Paul and Randy's empanada place, I think it's going to be hard to launch a ghost kitchen regardless of who you are. And just like all of the great, online retails that started, whether it's a Warby Parker or Harry's, or name some of your favorite like awesome online retail, that has also learned bricks and mortar matters for the experience of people getting to know your brand and experiencing it. So I think those high touch experiences will remain actually more important than ever. We know we're going to end up in a forever changed retail environment. And in the near term, there's probably going to be a whole lot of good retail available and not a whole lot of companies that can pay the rent, whatever that rent becomes. And I think those companies like ours who kind of right now strengthen their balance sheet, evolve their model, will be thriving on the other end of this over some period of time. I think it's going to be harder for those people who haven't figured out how to be nimble and change their model to do it. But do I think we're going to all exist in a back alley with no storefront? No, I don't. I think that will be something, but it will not be everything. People need to go out, people need to gather, and they need to go to places. And we will
Right.
want that in a crazy way in the coming months.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing it from both sides, both experts that think we're going to get back to a normalcy state, experts that believe this is a psychological impact that really could shift the consumer thinking around food and gathering places, events, even sporting events of that nature. And whether or not that gets us back to, a society that does move into that direction is obviously going to be yet to be seen. I think that's the thing that we as operators, you as operators, have to look at. How do we flex our businesses if, it's almost like going down to zero. What happens on worst case scenario, what happens on best case scenario of being able to go forward, for sure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about New York. Obviously, you're smack dab in the middle of this. How are things in New York itself? What's the state there?
New York is New York. I have lived personally in the restaurant business through 9/11, through Hurricane Sandy and blackouts and every terrible thing that happens. I think New Yorkers are a resilient bunch. We're all doing what we're supposed to do right now. People are home. People venture out to get some takeout for those businesses like ours who are open and serving. And I think as soon as we can do it in a smart way, New York will re-enter strong and be the New York tough that we know we are. It's certainly empty streets right now, empty restaurants, and empty a lot of businesses. But there's a spirit, there's a fight to New York, and not just New York, to this country that we will see, I believe, with optimism. We're not there yet. We shouldn't be there, and nobody is going to want to rush this. Certainly not us.
Yeah. We're
going to take our time. But when we do, I think you'll see in New York, just like, again, you go back to some of the most tragic, challenging times that we've seen. New York recovers fast, and we will do so again.
Yeah. Well, I've been there, and I've, all the way back to 9/11. It's been amazing to me just to see how New Yorkers respond to things like this. I think you guys are at your best when things are at their worst almost every time. Let's hope that we don't have many more at our worst moments in time. I think this is one for the books for sure. Last couple of things. In terms of things you guys are doing for the community, any shout outs you want to give? What's happening within kind of the Shake Shack good for the community world? Yeah,
we have been so proud of our teams, not just in New York, but in everywhere, who have taken upon themselves to be feeding hospitals, to be feeding first responders, sending burgers over. Not just our own teams, but we've had so many generous donors, people who are friends of ours or friends of hospitals who have literally called us and said, I want to feed 80 people at Mount Sinai. Here's my credit card. Can you guys send over 100 burgers? And we do that. The way our teams have been taking care of not just that community, but our own team members, taking care of our own team as we make sure we can try to get as many people hours as we can. Unfortunately, the sad times have been that we have had to furlough some employees. I can't wait to get them back. In the meantime, we're doing our best to take care of those team members in the best way we can. So the community aspect of coming together is so important. At Shake Shack, you may know, Paul, one of our key pieces of what we do in leadership development has been our leadership retreat that we've been doing for 15 years. And we all gather together, hundreds of us, and we get inspired, and we do these things to develop. Of course, that got canceled in the midst of this. So yesterday, we started phase 1 of our own company leadership retreat. And we brought in a speaker who we had inspire us 2 years ago by the name of Rick Rigsby, just an amazing good friend and an incredible motivational speaker who spoke to our 7,000 employees yesterday and inspired us with hope and optimism of the time, the challenges of what we're dealing with, and the things we're doing. So to answer your question, our community begins with our team, and we're looking forward to coming back together again in the ways that we do. In the meantime, making the best of the situation we have today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Randy, good luck to you at Shake Shack. I don't anticipate you guys are going anywhere soon, so I'm going to be happy to go back into a Shack when they're wide open again to get my fix, for sure. Thanks for stopping.
Thanks for the support, Paul. Take care.
All right. Okay, so all of you listening in here on the podcast, make sure and drop us a link and a note. Well, this is how we get feedback from you. And of course, as you know, on Spotify and or iTunes, or maybe you're listening in on iHeartRadio right now, the best way that we get information from our fans and from our followers is just to give us some input on what you think is working for the show, and also topics that you feel that we should be covering here on the Barron Report. That's the main feedback that we'd love to hear. You can send a note to producer@foodabletv.com, or you can also hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We will talk to you soon, and we're going to continue our coverage right here on the Barron Report for the restaurant recovery. Stay tuned right here.